Hey guys, check this out. This is the brand new Aerobeez Extra 330S, and we're going to be going through a build video. Now, this is going to be a general ARF kit build video. This will work for any ARF plane out there. This one is specifically the Extra 330S, but it'll work for anything. So let's get it going. First off the box, check out this packaging. Now, this is definitely something unique to Aerobeez. I've never seen packaging like this. This cardboard is at least an inch thick. It's ridiculous. See, there you go. See how thick it is? Ridiculous. Pull it out of the box and let's start separating the pieces. Inspect everything. Make sure it's good build quality. So if there's something wrong, you can send it back. Take it back to your store. Get it all laid out. Know you've got everything. Go through the book. That's what it's there for. So starting off with the landing gear, pretty easy. If you're following along with the book, it's pretty simple. This is a bolt-on type of landing gear. It's pretty generic. It comes with the wheel pants. Pretty simple setup. Once you get your landing gear built on there, you're going to start screwing it in. Definitely make sure that you don't over-tighten anything, especially if you're using an electric screwdriver. It's very important you don't strip anything out. So you definitely want to take a look. Anytime that I'm placing some wood anywhere with covering on it, strip off a little bit of covering before you add the glue. That's definitely going to help with your strength. So you get a little bit of glue on there, tack it down, give it a bit of press, and you're off. All right, good. Moving on. Tail gear. Pretty basic. Screw it into the place that they tell you to. It's in the book. The books are really easy to follow along with. Basically, with this setup, you want the tail wheel just to be along the trailing edge of the fuselage before the rudder. So right in between your rudder and your fuselage. This type has a small wire that's going to bolt onto your tail wheel that attaches to your rudder. So anytime your rudder moves, your tail wheel moves. This is your basic layout. You want it to kind of be 1/3 in on your rudder. So once you get that screwed in, start cutting out the holes for your control horns. Pretty easy. Of course, you can pretty much find the holes yourselves. They should tell you in the book where they are. Once you've got those cut out, you're going to start looking at your control horns. Now, these ones are carbon fiber. So what I did was I took a little bit of sandpaper and just etched along the edges. This is going to give the glue something to bond to. That's pretty important. You don't want those things to be coming out mid-flight. That would be atrocious. So once you got that sanded, a little bit of glue, and tack it into place. A little bit of light pressure is good. I'm using medium CA on this particular part. We will use thin CA later on in hinges, you'll see. But this is pretty easy. So you got those two tacked into place. And now I'm moving on to an air hole. This is actually pretty important. A lot of people don't do this. The reason behind all of this is that you're going to have a lot of airflow coming into your plane behind the propeller. Now, you need to have somewhere for that air to go. So I usually cut a hole in the covering around the tail for the air to escape. That's going to allow clean passage, so it keeps all your electronics cool. Here, I'm starting to cut out slots for the rudder cables. We'll get into that later. Now we're looking at the elevator. This is how I usually find my center mark in my elevator. I measure it, find the middle mark, and then measure about an inch out. That's just a basic guideline. It's going to help you make sure that you've got the middle of your elevator every time. Now, this is on the actual control surfaces themselves, cutting out the covering for the slots for the control horns. I did have to remove a bit of wood in the middle of these guys. But it actually wasn't too bad. This particular type of plane has a large fiberglass rod, which you see here. I'm sanding it so that the glue has something to bond to. And you want to make sure that the slot in your actual control surface is large enough to fit that fiberglass rod. So that's why I had to remove a little bit of wood. So there I'm using medium CA and sliding it into place. And then you push everything into the actual fuselage and glue it in. It's pretty basic. It'll show you in the manual how to do it. Make sure everything lines up, and you're ready to start hinging. Now, on this one, I'm using the CA type hinges. You'll need T-pins in order for these guys to work, or thumbtacks, whatever you want to work. Push the T-pin directly into the middle of the of the hinge, stick it in the slot, and add some CA. Pretty easy. It gets wicked into the wood. They're really strong. They're flexible. If you can use flexible CA, definitely do it. Here I'm using thin CA. A couple drops on either side will work fine. You don't need to go too overboard with these guys. Same thing with the rudder. So T-pins in the middle, slip it into the slots, make sure everything lines up, and start adding some CA. A couple drops either side, and you're good. Pretty easy. Once the CA is dry, pull out the T-handle, and you're good. So here we're cutting out the servo hole. This will be for the elevator servo, as this does have a pull-pull type of cable rudder system. So once you've got the hole cut out, we'll set up your servo. Here I'm using high-tech servos. I quite enjoy those. And I'm using JR Pro servo extensions. I like these ones because they lock into place, so you don't really need to have any couplers on your extension link, so you know that they're not going to come undone. The Pro ones do lock into place. So make sure that your servo fits. Make any adjustments to the airframe if you have to. Here you can see I cut off the CA, tapped the holes with a 3/16 drill bit, and I'm adding a little bit of CA to add some strength to the wood. Once that is dry, screw the servo into place, and you're ready to start putting on your control horn. Notice where I put the cable for the servo. Make sure it's up and high above where your rudder control wires are going to be. You don't want to have anything rubbing in there. So there you see the control horn going in, and I always add a little dab of FX medium CA, or sorry, XF medium CA, because that's a good metal bonding glue. So here you can see tapping out the hole, adding a bit more glue. This is for the rudder servo. So just increasing the strength of the wood with a little bit of CA, letting it dry, and then screwing it down into place. Now this is the wiring system for a pull-pull rudder system. So what we do is we put the little coupler through the wire, as you see there. Run the wire through the hole on the actual servo horn. Loop it back through the coupler. Make sure you've got lots of excess. Loop it around and back through the coupler again. So you've looped it a couple times. Once you have that pulled tight and you know that it's going to be long enough, all that you need is a pair of pliers, and you're going to squish it into place. So there you see, pulling the wire tight, removing as much excess as I can, and then a pair of pliers. So you get your pair of pliers and you squish it into place. It's actually a very accurate type of rudder system. It's very reliable. It's very, very strong. And you don't need to worry about tightening it too much. A light bit of tension is all that works. Here I'm using a thin CA, again, just to adhere the metals together so you know they're not going to come apart. Then fish the untied end of your rudder control wire through the hole over by the elevator and tape it to the fuselage for the next step. Do the same thing to the other wire, bolt it onto the rudder control horn, and again add a little dab of XF type of metal bonding glue to the nut just to make sure that it won't come undone. Loctite can be used too. I like using the glue because it'll break off really easy when you want it to. So here you can see I've attached the wires, squished them into place, and cut off some excess. You want to make sure that you tighten them up so you don't have a lot of play. Moving on to the motor mount, we're going to tap a small hole once we know where the motor is going to go, and then make a bigger hole for the bolt to go through. Once you've got it all figured out, use some blue Loctite, some lock nuts, and make sure that you bolt that into place really good, because this is obviously a 55 size motor. It's very strong. There you can see where I placed my speed controller directly underneath the motor mount. It's a very good place to put it. Lots of airflow. There you can see my receiver of choice. I did end up moving that receiver placement eventually, but it worked out fine. So now we're getting into cowl placement. This is the paper method. So what I've done is taped some paper to the side and made a cross where I know that I want the set screw to go through, and then put the cowl on. Make sure that you have your canopy on and so that everything fits nicely. And then you just screw right through the X that you made in the paper. And that's going to make sure that you've tapped your screw exactly where you want it to go. So once you have those screws done, just run the screw into place and you should be good. Moving on to the wings. Okay, we're going to start off by cutting out our servo horn holes. Again, these are light carbon fiber control horns. Yours are probably going to be different, so do whatever your books tells you to do. Here I'm sanding off a little bit so that I have good grip with the glue and glue it into place. Hinges are exactly the same. They're CA type hinges, so use T-pins again. Slide everything into the appropriate slots and some thin CA dabs on both sides. That wicks into the wood, nice and strong. Fish your servo control wires, your extension leads through. A lot of kits will have strings to help you with that. This one didn't. I was informed by the manufacturers that all kits in the future do have a string, and it really does help. So tap the holes for your servo. Again, add a little bit of CA to strengthen that wood. Screw it into place. Make sure that you don't over-tighten. You don't want to strip these guys out. These are crucial screws, and they have to be strong. So you run your control wires. And I'm going to set the little winglets into place, and we're done. There's your basic setup. Make sure that you balance your plane properly according to its specs, and thoroughly check everything before you run it. But you're off and flying, guys. All right, I hope that helps you. I know that it's taken me a while to get the ARF kit perfectly down, but I hope I've helped. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, robscorc@gmail.com, or hit up our Facebook page, facebook.com/robscorc videos. And take care, guys. Happy flying.